Happy Christmas and welcome. My name is Christopher and this is Spinning Round. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who has put the second video of mine about the Revolver remix in such an incredible amount of hits. I can't believe how many they've received. I want to say thank you very much. As well, thank you for the almost 500 subscribers that have joined in just what seems to be a matter of weeks. I was hoping to post more, but I've actually been sick with this classic cold that everyone seems to have gotten. And, well, here I am, kind of fighting through as we all are. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season. I thought for just a quick video I wanted to share with you some of my favorite albums of Christmas time. Of course, with my name being Christopher Claus, I got razzed a lot about Kris Kringle's Santa Claus, but I really do love the season. And I hope you do as well, and I hope that the music that you've been listening to has helped you enjoy the season just a little bit more. So what I want to do is share with you two different lists. The first one is a list of records that have not been released yet or re-released on record that I think should be for Christmas time. So there's going to be 8 titles we're going to go over, and I'm going to start with what I consider to be title number 8. Here is title number 8, Christmas with Chet Atkins. First of all, that is like the best album cover ever. I think this is I would give this award to the best Christmas cover ever. You have to love that orange 6120 sitting in that snow. Just lovely. And of course, Chet Atkins was such a monster player and innovative in so many ways. Let's go on this side. There we go. And this is an original one on RCA and the good old living stereo. And as to my knowledge, it has not been reissued, but hey friends, if you happen to know that it has, please do so. This is my copy on the black label, Canadian of course. And I would love to see that album reissued just for the sheer fact I'd like to see that cover again. Let's see if we can get it a little bit of a better shot here. Here we go. Let's go on the other side. Isn't that something? Love it. I love it. Number 8, Chet Atkins. Number 7 is one that will never ever be reissued because I don't think anyone except for myself loves this record. This is the story of Snoopy's Christmas and other favorite children's songs. You'll notice I put volume 1. I'm not sure why. This is my original copy that I had from the 70s. And it's very cool. The band here is a band called The Quiet Jungle, and they're a band from Toronto back in the, I'm assuming, late 60s, early 70s. And I remember getting this, and I just played it over and over and over again. So it's a sentimental favorite for me, and but musically they're a pretty tight band. And I think this is one that should be reissued again. So I'm not sure who owns it. I'm not sure if any of you happen to know members of The Quiet Jungle. I'd love to find out more about the band. But it was recorded at Base Studios in Toronto, which of course no longer exists. But there you go. And it was on this very cool Red Arc label. Let's see if we can get this up here. Here we go. You can tell it's kind of a beaten album, but very fun nonetheless. So for me, of records I'd like to see, number 7 would be Snoopy's Christmas. For these next titles, these ones are very much a big part of my childhood, as I'm sure many of you are familiar with these. You've probably seen them in hundreds and hundreds of value villages and, dollar stores all around the world. These great Firestone records had such great stuff on them. There were 7 volumes. I've got all 7 here. I collected them all thanks to me, and my dad also got them. And he remembers getting it at the the red and white store down in Grimsby. And these just became seasonal favorites. And at one point I found all of them, and then I transferred them to CD as a Christmas gift, and my dad was just thrilled. So, but things like having James McCracken, the great operatic tenor, Gordon McCrae, Martha White, and I think Rhys Stevens, and of course I think Vicky Carr, Leontine Price. So a lot of operatic scenes, but also this one, which was all Julie Andrews. Fantastic. Oh, and Peter Dunn's Vinyl Museum, one of the great stores in Toronto. These will never get reissued again, but those were the days in the 60s and 70s where you could get records like this that were great compilations, all done by Columbia. I think this was a Columbia one, I think. And of course, they were a collector's album. Very important to know that it was a collector's album. But loved them. Still listen to them today. Would love to see those reissued. One of my favorite winter songs growing up as a kid came off of this album, from John Denver's Rocky Mountain Christmas. As far as I'm led to believe, this has not been reissued. So for me, this is my original Canadian copy that I received many, many years ago. Here we go. Lovely. And I believe it was the beige RCA label, if I'm not mistaken. Ah, it was. There we go. Oops. And there we go. The favorite song of mine was Aspen Glow. What a beautiful, beautiful song. And I would love to, I know it's been released on CD. I have a version of it on CD, but I'd like to have a new pressing of this for sure. But again, one that I think should be reissued again, John Denver's Rocky Mountain Christmas. Well, speaking of childhood, I remember the year that John Lennon died. My high school teacher at the time, I was in grade 9 science, was my homeroom, and I remember that Mr. Stainsby was going to let us have a party, and we could bring in music. So, of course, what did I do but bring in this? I brought in my Wishing You a Merry Christmas album. This was a set all done by Reader's Digest, and again, flea markets, vintage stores, Value Village, all that stuff would have tons of these. I love this set. In fact, I pulled it out. I was listening to it because I digitized it at the same time I did the Firestone records years ago. And I pulled it out this week, and I literally started sobbing because I was thinking of my mom and my dad and my sister and of the times that we'd be listening to these records. But pretty cool design. Each record was kind of in the shape of an ornament, which is kind of cool. Had the listings on each side. Fantastic. RCA did take care of this as well. And, you had, this is my original set, so it's quite beat up. I found another one that was a little bit better, but it was called Joyous Noel. Here's disc 3. I like the red. Love the green. And then this one I enjoyed the most, as you can see. Look at how beat up that is. This had all of the greats, like All I Want for Christmas Is My Two Front Teeth, my wife's least favorite Christmas song ever. Santa Claus Is Coming to Town. Anyway, all the best. And a great version of Jingle Bells by Glenn Miller. So, would I like to see this set reissued properly? Yes. All that old stuff, I'm in for. Do it. Number 3 on my, I wish this had been reissued. Again, one of the ones inspired by my dad. Mario Lanza, Christmas Hymns and Carols. Again, what a great operatic voice he had. And there was no one quite like Mario. And again, this is another one. RCA made a killing on Christmas, I think, for the most part, don't you think? This one is also on the blue label. This is actually from my dad's collection. So this was the copy that I listened to as a kid. I think it needs to be reissued. I'm not sure if it has. So folks, tell me. Let me know if that one's been issued on high-quality record vinyl. Let me know. Number 2 on my list, I don't even have a copy of it on record. I only have it on CD. It is Perry Como's Sings Merry Christmas Music. This was also another one we listened to a lot as a kid, and I'm not sure where my dad's copy went. So it has disappeared. But this is the CD version of it, which I do have, and it sounds great. But I would like, I'm still looking for an original pressing that's not all chewed up. So I do have 2 other titles by Perry that did come out. A later one called Season's Greetings. And that one's good. Not as good as the first one. And then this one I found on the Living Stereo label. This is an import, which is kind of weird. I'd never seen this before, but I thought it was very cool to show you. Season's Greetings from Perry Como. Living Stereo. Nice record, but again, it's not the same performances as on the other record here, which has always kind of confused me. Hearing him do 'Twas the Night Before Christmas was always a special treat. So anyway, Perry Como, number 2. And now this is my number 1 favorite album that I wish was reissued for Christmas. And again, you'll see tons of these all over the place. Robert Shaw Chorale, Joy to the World. Lots of different copies of this. I would still love to find a mono copy. I have a stereo copy. This was the album my dad always put on first every Christmas. So for me, it's a perennial favorite of hearing it and thinking about my family. But as Christmas, I think, always does bring us sentimental memories. But I would love to see this reissued. All right. Now, I'd like to share with you my top 10 all-time favorite Christmas albums on record. Here we go. Starting at number 10. What Christmas wouldn't be complete without Ringo singing I Want to Be Santa Claus? I remember buying this CD when it first came out in New York City. And in fact, I bought it at the Borders store. Borders Cafe? Yes, the Borders Cafe. That was actually housed in the World Trade Center. And I remember after the World Trade Center buildings went down, looking at my receipt going, and it said One World Trade Center, just sort of took my breath away. That was my last purchase in that building for sure. This one, again, it's a mixed effort, but it's worth it just to hear Christmastime is Here Again, the old great Beatles song from the Christmas disc from 1967 from the Beatles. And, Little Drummer Boy is quite appropriate. So it's a worthwhile romp. It's been reissued on vinyl, so it's available. That's my number 10. Number 9 is kind of a surprise one. I have fallen in love with this record. This one rocks. Of course, I'm a huge Cheap Trick fan to begin with, but I'm a big fan of that, that first period up until Dream Police. That's kind of my favorite Cheap Trick material. But this is fantastic. This came out as a Record Store Day release, and I think I bought the CD, but I really wanted the record, and this album rocks. And I make mixed Christmas CDs every year, and my wife gets to listen to them in the car, so do I. And there's one of the tracks here, I believe it was... Oh yeah, I think I put on I Wish It Would Be Christmas Every Day. And she didn't complain. And she's not a huge Cheap Trick fan. And she liked it. So I think you would too. But if you can find a copy of this, do it. This is number 9 for me. For number 8, I want to show you my original copy of this. This is the one I first received when I was a kid or bought as a kid. What Christmas would not be complete without the King? And honestly, what a fabulous record. I still, to this day, I just love it so much. And this one... If you can see that, it's on the blue, there we go, I pull it back, is on the blue RCA label, so matching the cover. I then, of course, upgraded and got myself a newer copy years later, which has, I believe, what was the original cover. And I think it's this one, so let me show you. Here we go. That's what the original cover was. This is the reissue. Number 8, gotta have this album must, Elvis. A surprise newer album for me that has made my top 10 list is one that I learned about. Well, I actually learned about this artist when I visited Austin, Texas many years ago. J.D. McPherson. First of all, this guy makes records like he was back in 1957, and they sound so good. This album is so much fun. It's great to listen to. It's a great romp. It's just positive, joyful music, clever songwriting. You gotta love it. This album is actually now available on record. Hopefully you can find a copy because it's definitely worth it. It's so cute. Great artwork. Great songs. I can't recommend this one highly enough. If you don't own this, find it. And if not, stream it because it's so good. J.D. McPherson Socks. That's my number 7 choice. I've fallen in love with this. Sufjan Stevens presents the Songs of Christmas, Singalong Volumes 1 to 5. This was a set of records that he sort of released as tapes, I believe, early on for friends, and then it sort of became a thing he did every year. And this is the compilation of those. And this has become a very treasured set for me and my family. Love listening to this. Apart from being a musical genius, this man is so great at orchestration and creating these different colors with very unique instruments. In my mind, I would see him as being today's Brian Wilson. So if you don't have this set, you need to get it. I got mine for a really good price in a Canadian shop here in Hamilton a few years ago. It's a loved set. I love this. My wife also really loves it too. Sufjan Stevens, that comes in at number 6. Here we are at number 5. Well, of course this is in the top 5. This is probably one of the most classic albums of the Christmas canon. Bing Crosby. Now, I sadly have the reprocessed stereo one. The best sounding version of this, of course, is the MCA CD, which was actually, I believe it was mastered by Steve Hoffman. Steve used the mono tapes for it. Fabulous listen. But, it's still good to have it on record. I'm not sure. I think this has been reissued on like stupid colored vinyl, and I would like to see a nice audiophile version of this. Well, as audiophile as you can get these recordings, because, yeah. However, I do love this black DECCA label. Just want to show it to you because I think it's worthwhile looking at. Here we go. Isn't that cool? Good old DECCA stereo. That is a Canadian label, of course, but just love it. There it is. Love it. So if you don't have this in your collection, do you even like Christmas at all? Really? You've got to get it. So, number 5 on my list, Bing Crosby. I was born in 1965, and a particular show came out in December of that year that sort of broke all records. And this is the record I chose as my number 4. A Charlie Brown Christmas by Vince Guaraldi Trio. This is, of course, the one done by Kevin and Steve. There has been a recent one that has just been done that has been remixed and mastered by Kevin. I'd like to hear that with some bonus material. But this is the genuine article, 45 RPM. If you can find this, I don't even know how much this is worth anymore. This sounds so good. Yes, you've got to go up and turn it over faster. It's worth it. It sounds so good. You feel like the players are in the room. It's a great recording, and if you don't own it, you have to get a copy. There are a lot of cheaper versions out there, but I recommend this one. It's the best sounding. And maybe the new one is too, but I haven't heard it. So anyway, but this one is my number 4. Number 3 on my all-time favorite Christmas records. The Christmas Song by Nat King Cole. Nat was my mom's favorite singer, and then he became mine. There's something about his voice that just feels like home, and if I'm having a rough time, I put on some Nat to relax me. Funny enough, though, my kids would get anxiety listening to Nat King Cole on the stereo in the car. So, one man's pleasure, another person's anxiety. What a great record. There's so much here. It goes by too fast. A record is good when you say, it's over? You have to go flip it over, and then you say, it's really over? This version is on the Capital Rainbow Canada version. And the new pressing sounds actually decent, so it's worth getting. There was a great audiophile version, I think, on Super Audio CD, or on Gold CD, I can't remember. That one sounds the best in my mind, but definitely if you don't have this, go to your used bins and get a copy. It's worth it. Number 3, Nat King Cole. Now, the ones that I picked for my top 10 are ones that are all readily available still in one way, shape, or form. You can get a copy of these somewhere as a reissue. This one you can and you can't, but this one still has to be my second favorite. And it's a sentimental favorite. It's not going to be everyone's favorite, but it's mine. The compilation Beatles Christmas album that came out from the fan club. Love this. This is a bootleg, sadly. My sister picked this up for me in Toronto as a Christmas gift. I was so thrilled that she could find one. I still have yet to find an original of this. So the bootleg that I've got, this version is actually pretty good. It's in pretty good shape. Let me show you the labels. Pulling back. There we go. So there's the Apple label. And then the flip. Pull it back as well. Yeah, not going to get it. You get the idea. There it is. A little bit of prints there. Interesting thing about this is that my copy does have bell sound in the wax, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's legit, and it's not a legit copy. I wished it was, but it's not. One way you can tell, too, on these bootlegs is how noisy they are. And I remember this one being quite noisy, so you can tell that it just, yeah. But for me, it's not Christmas until this gets spun at least once. So, number 2. Now, that one is not for sale anymore, but this came out a few years ago, and I think you can still probably buy it. I wished I had checked. This was a box set of all the singles, and they did a really nice job. However, I really wish that they would have done this on a full album. I love the fact that it was a package, which is great, and they tried to recreate all the sleeves, which again, wonderful, great ideas. And, we Beatle fans complain, right? Other people would have said, well, then you would have said, gee, why didn't you just reissue them as a little box set with the original sleeves? So anyway, I very thrilled with that, and I will pull that out. I haven't pulled that out yet this year, but I'm going to have a listen to it hopefully tomorrow. But there it is. That's my number 2. The Beatles Christmas album. Duh. I'm a Beatles fan. Why wouldn't it be number 2? These were, again, if I didn't tell you, these were fan gifts that were sent out at the end of every year. And it was basically messages from the Beatles saying, hey, thanks for buying our records. And then near the end, they got creative and put little skits on, which were really clever, created some original music. Christmastime is here again, one of my favorites. But worth it. Definitely worth it. Number 2. And now, my number 1 favorite album of all time for Christmas. This might be a shock to some of you. Maybe it will, I don't know. Phil Spector's Christmas album. What a fantastic record. fantastic performances. This is where you can say what you want about Phil Spector. He lived a very interesting life. However, what he did in the studio was remarkable. These sounds, these artists, what he was able to pull together. It's a beautiful, beautiful testament. It's really, I believe, probably one of the first concept albums, and the concept being Christmas. But Phil took it to the extreme. And I loved at the end, during Silent Night, Phil had a chance to speak and say thank you, and you would see shades of that in albums that Ringo Starr would do. If you think of the Ringo album, he talks to his fans at the end of the record, and so does John Lennon when he's doing the rock and roll album. So if you don't have this, you need to get it. This particular one is on red vinyl, which is very pretty. Isn't that pretty? That's pretty. My first copy, is this my first copy? No, this is my first copy. My first copy had the reissued cover. There it is. Good old Phil in his Santa suit. Here's the back. This was actually released in Canada. The album first came out in '63. This was issued, I think I've got it here saying 84, but on Passport Records in Canada. Let me show you the Passport label for those who don't know it. Not very seasonal, but there you go. There we go. There's the Passport label. Sounded okay. It does sound much better in mono, and I believe the red pressing I have is in mono. One of my favorite copies is the next one that I'm going to show you. My favorite pressing, although it's not my favorite sounding pressing, I just love how this looks. Here's the album. What is that I see? Is that an Apple label? Yes, the Phil Spector album on Apple. One of the smartest things Apple did was to reissue this album back in the 70s. And here it is. Gotta love that label. Fantastic. Let's go on this side. There we go. There we go. That's a little better. And then, of course, the B-side. See if we can go. This side was. There we go. Get an idea. I'll figure this out, this whole camera angle thing. I'll get it. But for me, there's no better Christmas album that's ever been made that sums up the feeling of joy in the spirit. The beautiful, beautiful arrangements, songs. It's a festive album. It's fun. You know, if you're feeling down, you got to put this on and you'll feel so much better. So my number one is Phil Spector's Christmas album. Well, folks, I just want to say thank you again so much for your support here on the channel. Again, I can't believe that my second video has gotten almost 30,000 hits. Incredible. And we're almost up to 500 subscribers, which again blows my mind. This has just been kind of a labor of love because I just love records and love music. I just want to wish you all a very, very happy and Merry Christmas, that you have an amazing New Year, and that you are just blessed beyond compare this year. That you get the records of your choice and the ones you've been looking for your whole life. I also pray that you spend 2023 listening to lots of music and enjoying it, and just hope again for many blessings for you in the coming year. That's me signing off. Thanks again. My name is Christopher. Thank you for joining me on Spinning Round. And remember, records were meant to be played. Spin them round, folks. Spin them round. Happy Christmas. Have a wonderful New Year, and we'll see you in 2023.